Why don't people read their email? They need to listen better and take notes during meetings. Why can't people just pay attention? I would imagine that if you're someone who has to get out and communicate out important information about a project or about some important event or a change in policy or procedure, that you may have experienced that where you send out the information and a few weeks later, members of your team kind of vaguely remember that conversation or kind of vaguely remember that email. But what's going on with that? Why are people not remembering? Well, you might think it's because of distractions, social media, back-to-back meetings where you don't have time to process all the information, or an inbox filled with emails just to the top with dense information. Well, you're not wrong. That is part of the problem, and it goes a little bit deeper. Once upon a time, I used to work at an advertising company. And there's a phrase in the marketing world called the rule of seven. The rule of seven. It's a rule we live by. And basically, here's what it is. The rule of seven is that marketing experts know that in order for a consumer, a customer, to be thinking about buying a product or to engage in whatever it is that you're trying to sell them, they have to have been involved with, engaged with, connected with on some level that product at least 7 times. They need to be exposed to that at least 7 times. This is why when I ask you the question, hey, who's the spokesperson or the character that they use for Geico Insurance? You probably could tell me pretty easily that it's the gecko. Or if I say, hey, what's the slogan for Nike? Pretty easily you're going to be able to tell me, hey, the slogan for Nike is just do it. Well, how is it that you can easily recall those slogans and spokespeople and all of that? How is it that you can remember that? It's the rule of 7. It's because you have seen commercials again and again and again and again in multiple different ways, engaging with you, making you laugh, making you think, inspiring you, all of those things at least 7 times in a short period of time. So that's also true for how we communicate information out. But there's more. Studies have shown that if you send me an email and I read it, and it's dense information and I read it, a couple of weeks later, I'm only going to remember about 10% of what's in that email. If you and I have a discussion about that email, about the content of that email or the topic at hand, if you and I have a discussion about it, a couple of weeks later, I'm going to remember about 50% of that information that you want me to remember. If you can get me to articulate it back or teach another person that information, 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, a month later, I'm going to remember about 90% of it. So it's not just I sent the one email and I'm done because I've communicated it out. There has to be a communication plan. So that's my challenge for you. The next time that you have important information out, think of the ways that you want to communicate this, right? Come up with the plan. I'm going to send the email. I'm going to have it discussed in a meeting. I'm going to ask people to train others, teach others about this topic, whatever the case may be, so that they can get engaged with it. The more exposure they have to that information in a meaningful way, the more likely they are to remember it going forward. All right, so that's my leadership tip for today. Have a great one, guys. Thanks.